Happy
Happy after
birthday
for the 50.
again.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Football Kentron, our 50th episode and 2-year anniversary episode. I am joined here by the boys, Chadens and Armin. Gentlemen, 2 years, 50 episodes. Congratulations. All around, handshakes, everything virtually. How are you feeling?
Happy, super happy that we're doing 50. We're doing the second year. Wow. What a
Yeah.
journey. Wow.
I'm getting emotional already.
I can't believe Football Kentron is already 2 years old. And I think
Yeah.
it's wild to me. And the fact that we put out 50 episodes in exactly 2 years is crazy. That means we averaged like an episode every other week for 2 years. That's wild to me. Um, but yeah,
Living on 3, 4 different continents at the
yeah,
same time.
right. Well, we're doing it, and we will continue to do it. And so, thank you to everyone who has supported us these past 2 years. Thank you for everyone that follows us, that likes our posts, that likes our Instagrams, that shares our podcast, that does all that because it really, really it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to our mission, which is, of course, to help Armenian football grow in the English-speaking world, to kind of give it a little bit more of the attention we believe it deserves. Um, so yeah, 50 episodes, 2 years, and growing strong, and
And we're
hopefully
just
keep
getting
growing strong.
started.
I'm surprised you guys aren't sick of us yet. But
One thing is
Getting
for sure
started,
though,
man.
we're not gonna pay the $7 for the dominant blue check mark.
yeah, we're not. We'll earn it.
Yeah, we'll clarify
Um,
that from now.
Exactly.
well, technically, we can't even earn it anymore. That's like that's so shitty. Like we were working really hard towards getting verified, and well, that's not happening. So, anyway, this episode will consist of a few parts, and it's going to be a very traditional football Genshin episode. But it's just going to be our 50th. So we will start, of course, at home in the Armenian Premier League. The league is in full swing. I believe we are nearing the winter break, with a few more match days only left to go before a long pause until March. And Urardu sit on top of the league, currently with 12 wins, one draw, and two losses, gathering 37 points with a plus 20 goal differential. Dimitri Gunko, who was let go by Aurora Armenia and signed by Urardu, uh, have been flying high. Um, Question for you boys to start this off. Is this going to be sustainable going into the second half of the season, knowing now that all the attention off of other competitions are out of the picture? Can Urardu keep it up and win the league?
I don't know, but yeah, you mentioned a great point actually, Pyunik, that has two games in hand that should play two games. Ararat Armenia won, uh, but still they're looking pretty good. I mean, if they don't win the league, they're definitely gonna finish top three, and they're looking a really really mature team, like mostly Armenian, mostly youth, but still like they're at that perfect uh, chemistry and maturity point, which even if they don't win it, they're gonna do pretty well in Europe, and I expect them to make a solid run in Europe.
Chadens, you got to spend some quality time with at Urardu. You went to a couple games this season. Based off of what you were seeing, do you think they can make it all the way?
Well, they've been playing better than what I saw them do because it was in the beginning of the season. They were testing it out. They they have earned the top four. The top four, they're definitely gonna stay there. It will be a big downfall if they somehow go below the fourth position. They highly likely covered Europe for next season. It's a bit early to say, but like you said, the winter break is coming, and to be on top of the league in the winter break is pretty big.
It is big indeed. And in
Oh, they're
second,
20 points. Like they're 20 points away from the fifth place.
yeah, they're also 30. There's a 32-point gap between top and bottom of the table too. So it puts it into perspective. And we were talking last episode about packs, right? About how there's a middle pack, a front pack, and a back pack. No pun intended. And this top of the table currently is three sides, I would say. Urartu, Alashkert, and Arada Armenia, and Pyunik are behind, but they have a couple games in hand, which if they were to win, they would close that gap and they would be part of that group that are fighting for the title. And surprisingly, in the middle of the table, growing strong, Lerna and Artsakh, who drew with Pyunik actually today on 19 points. So they're actually having a very, very good inaugural season in the Armenian Premier League. And if we go to the bottom of the table, we have FC Noah still at the bottom on 5 points, and Bekma with 7 points right above them. It looks like those two are probably going to be scrapping it out for the bottom, but we'll see what happens. Any thoughts, gentlemen, on the APL?
It's just a shame that the two bottom clubs are Bekama and Noah. I like them. But at least we have only one relegation.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't even get relegated. So,
True. True. Man, I love Armenian football.
moving on to European competition. European competition group stages wrapped up this past week in the UEFA Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League. We will start at the top tier competition in the UEFA Champions League, where we have one representative in Henrik Mkhitaryan, who plays for Inter Milan, and they had gone through in what was considered the group of death with Barcelona and Bayern Munich and Victoria Pilsen, was the unlucky fourth club that got into that group. At time of recording, we do not know who Inter are going to play in the knockout rounds. I think we'll know tomorrow. So you'll know by the time this comes out. We don't know what's going on right now, but
yeah, we're all gonna be we're just randomly just assuming some random teams at this point.
yeah. So I think it just throwing this out there, Chadens, Inter Milan. How do you assess their capability of winning the Champions League? Do you think they can do it?
Oof, tough question. If they can win the Champions League, it'll be very, very difficult. There are many teams that are very consistent. Inter in the league, they have not been so consistent, but in the Champions League, they managed to do very good things, and they could have done better. I'm pointing out to the last episode when we mentioned the last pass to Mkhitaryan. Shame on that guy who didn't do it. But they can go far. They can go far.
It would be really cool, I think,
Yeah.
to see Henrik win the Champions League. Not only because, of course, it's the Champions League and an Armenian hasn't won it yet. An Armenian National Team player, Armen. I'm going to correct you before I'm going to null that correction you were going to throw in. And he would actually make history even further because he's also won the Europa League with Manchester United. He won the Conference League with AS Roma. So if he wins the Champions League, he'll be the first player to win all three. So
Wow.
think about that. Moving on, one step below in the UEFA Europa League, Armen, your boy Gorman Velian, and Nantes are through somehow. Right? I don't really understand how they even made it through. Every single time I checked their scores, they were just getting their asses kicked. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, they got what they should have, which is beating Olympiacos. They beat the Aliyev club once, the Aliyev dictatorships club, which was one for the Aliyevs and one for Nantes. So it was on the head-to-head. It was tied. And making a little play with words, it was tied with them, and the group was tight. I mean, it was really tight because they had to win Olympiacos. They had to beat Olympiacos twice, and I think they did, and it was the most important. When you win, like when Inter beat Barca, like that was the key for them, for Inter to make it through. They had to beat Barca, and they did. Barcelona. Doesn't matter. They didn't beat Bayern Munich, and Nantes did the same thing in a different competition, different group. They didn't do well against Freiburg, the German team, which went like won the group comfortably, but not managed to make it through on second place. Unfortunately, our Atsakti boy Manbelian is not playing for them, and the fans are going crazy because of that. Because he is good, and the fans know it. But the coach doesn't clearly doesn't like him for some reason. He doesn't like many of the youngsters. And it's a great academy, which is why then their fans are going crazy about this coach. But we we think he should get a loan. Like if he didn't play the semester, then that's enough proof that he's not going to play for as long as this coach is around. So, minimum, at the minimum, a loan for the next semester.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening, but I mean, I think it was something that you had predicted early on in the season, and I think the hope was playing on multiple fronts. The league, Coupe de
Yeah,
France, Conference League, or sorry, Europa League, and maybe he would get some minutes in the league, but that hasn't even happened. So it's a little tough. It's a tough one to swallow for sure. Okay.
yeah, yeah. I guess hopefully he takes the hint.
Yeah, hopefully. I would hope so. Moving forward one step down into the UEFA Europa Conference League, where this is kind of where the good news ends,
Yeah.
for the most part, and
Lol.
where things didn't really pan out as we had hoped for. First, we'll start out with Sargis Adamian and FC Köln. They were knocked out, the German Bundesliga side of the Conference League. Partizan Belgrade had a runaway victory with the group, and despite Sacco's best efforts, I think the team just wasn't set up well, both offensively and defensively, especially defensively, I think I could say. And they, felt the consequences. Similarly with Andre and Silkeborg, who were, despite having two crazy 5-0 wins over Steaua Bucharest, was not nearly enough for them to go through. And now we have two of our Armenian national team players who are no longer going to be playing in European competition. Thoughts on that one, boys?
Both unfortunate. I mean, yeah, Sacco doesn't. It still feels like Sacco Adamian hasn't quite made the transition he would have hoped for. And I don't know if he's gonna stay at Kieran for longer, for way too long. I don't know, because he usually adapts quickly to teams, and so far at Hoffen, well, first before that, Jan Regensburg, in German third and second tier. Subsequently, as soon as he arrived there, he started scoring and assisting. Then he moved to Bundesliga with Hoffenheim. As soon as he arrived, scoring, assisting. Then he was loaned to Bruges in Belgium, champion, a score, assist, everything. And now, for the first time in several years, he is not the results and stats machine he will have been for several seasons now. So I don't know how that's gonna affect his career. Maybe a move again. As for Andre Chalishir, sad, but I don't know. Their team is doing really well in the Danish Superliga. When they actually concede a lot. Whether or not he's playing, uh, that's not that doesn't change. They're conceding a lot, but they're still winning, and that's gonna be nice. Hopefully, more silverware for a player that's used to it.
Yeah, I think just a quick thought on the Sacco situation. My concern is that FC Cologne will let him go in the winter or just terminate his contract. But I mean, who knows? Um,
I don't know, bro. That would be too soon. I think.
I think he was signed as a reinforcement for European competition, and now that they're not in it anymore, it's not
Yeah,
it's
but
not far-fetched. Clubs do that, but he is signed to a
in
long-term deal.
Germany, it sounds a little far-fetched. They don't do rash things like that too often.
Yeah, we'll talk about rash things like that and the club that did do that. Um, Moving on into probably the biggest group of interest for us in the Conference League, which was Group H, that involved not only FC Pyunik of Armenia, but also Slovan Bratislava, where Tigran Barsegian plays and is a pivotal key player. Tigran's Barsegian Slovan are through to the knockout stages, to the round of 16. They bypass the knockout playoff because they clinched the group. Despite Tico's absence, Barsegan broke his leg in training, and he is going to be out for a very, very long time. I believe he's guaranteed to miss our March game against Turkey,
Hmm.
which I'm sure that's probably the part that pissed him off the most from everything here. But he
It's certain,
will,
right? Oh yeah, March. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's certain. Yeah. Oh
and
my
and
God.
and he's certain
Yeah,
to
but
miss.
at least it's only one game.
Yeah, but he is also certain to miss the Conference League knockout first
Yep.
round. So which sucks for him. He's not going to get to experience something that, he had a
Yeah.
really big hand in getting them to. th-
Hopefully, bro. Hopefully they keep making it through the competition, and Sako and then Tico can be back by, well, and they
yeah,
can still be in competition by the time he's back.
yeah, hopefully that's the hope.
Yeah.
Second in the group was FC Basel, also tied on 11 points, who defeated Pyunik in the final match day 2-1, ending Pyunik's historic run. So we're going to talk a little bit about that right now. Pyunik ended the season with 6 matches played, 2 wins, 0 draws, and 4 losses, scoring 8 goals and conceding 9, with a -1 goal difference. It it was, really, I think, a campaign that went better than we had anticipated,
Hmm.
but also simultaneously disappointing because of how things unfolded. The results could have been like monumental. So I think
Yeah,
there's,
I would like sum it up as uh, uh, taking your words, better than what we anticipated beforehand, but worse than they actually did deserve in the end.
yeah, I think it's crazy to me that in every game, it was like we were watching the same thing unfold. It was like really, really strong start, lapse in concentration, concede a couple goals, fight back really, really hard, don't score enough. And I think that was like the journey. And needless to say, I think Melikian did a really, really good job. I actually think he did, in my opinion, things very correctly. And I think it just came down to the quality of the players on the pitch just weren't at the level that was necessary to accomplish what they needed. One thing I would have changed though, is, especially after watching this last game against FC Basel, was I would have started Aras Ozbilis in more matches. I think he came off the bench in every European game, but I know fitness was like an issue at one point, but I think he could have added so much more quality from the start. Elsewhere, I think the three Armenian players we had, Hovannes Harutyunyan, we had Dashan, and we had Yurchenko. Those were the three players. They started every game in the group stage, and I think we should talk about those three individually one by one. So we'll start with Harutyunyan, who he, in my opinion, showed his
Standout
talent.
season.
Yeah, he was very standout for sure. He had a great assist, um, and he showed his quality for sure. But I also think that he showed why he wasn't at that elite level yet. He disappeared a lot, in especially in that last game against Basel and in the game against
He's
Zalgiris.
that type of player.
Yeah, he I think the pressure was, and I could see it in his facial expressions during the game. I think it was a little too much for him at that time. And this is, of course, like a growing experience for him. You know, he has the most European minutes out of any Armenian national team player, besides Henry. I think the same as Henry Mkhitaryan, which is crazy. You know, and he's only 20. What, he's 23 now, and he still has a
Yeah,
lot to show for it. So,
despite what his face suggests.
and I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on Harutyunyan.
He's that type of player. I mean, he's the classic enganche, we would call him, like a number 10, a classic traditional, super talented, doesn't move around a lot with the ball, I mean, in the sense of sprints. He does move around with the ball, but he doesn't sprint. He doesn't make runs necessarily. He's a more passing type of guy, kind of like, yeah, a number 10 that sometimes goes missing for sometimes extended periods in a game, and then can change a whole game with one touch. He's that type of player. Yeah, and as you said, he that type of player usually is the one that does feel pressure more than their teammate. He's very psychological, a psychologically influenced player. Yeah, but at the end of the day, 23 years old, standout season, one of the Armenians with the most European minutes in a long time in one season, and of course, he was highlighted by Dejan Stankovic. I don't think we mentioned that on air ever after the games against Red Star
Oh, we
Belgrade.
didn't. First time I'm hearing
Yeah,
about it. That's
exactly.
actually awesome.
We did tweet. I remember we tweeted about that, but we didn't bring it up on on the actual show. And yeah, by the time we played Red Star, granted they kicked our asses, especially away in Serbia 5-0, but still, Dejan Stankovic was at that time their coach, and he highlighted Ovo as Pyunik's main man,
Yeah.
and that's huge.
Yeah, I genuinely believe he's going to get a solid move to like a top 15 league team. I really do. I think he's going to get not like a crazy team, but like someone that plays in the conference league regularly, like that type of club. And I think it'll be really, really good for him. I
Yeah.
think he's a player that in the national team picture can contribute a lot more. Next up, Dashan, Artak Dashan, who I'm gonna dub to be the Renaissance man, because this guy had like an insane career revival with Pyunik. He came on. He was the first Armenian to score in the Conference League. He was scoring banger after banger. He scored one against Ireland, and he had a really really good Conference League campaign. But I think again, I think he tried to lean too much into that, scoring long shots, and that type of work, and he really did try his best. And ultimately, I think his lack of like actual quality showed, because he has this incredible work ethic and this incredible work rate, and he's
a
not
workhorse.
he's a workhorse, and I think when it came to playing against opposition that had a little bit more natural talent, I think that's when you can notice the divide. But I feel like this Artak Dashan Renaissance is probably coming to an end, because I don't know how sustainable it will be at his age. But I mean, he's done really really good things for Armenian football in these past 6 months. I can comfortably say that, and unexpectedly too.
Yeah, I don't know if unexpectedly. I mean, you remember how last season I was mentioning him every now and then because he was doing really, really well in Kazakhstan, and he was actually one of the reasons why I like, not reasons, but he's proof, his actual proof that the Kazakh league is a good place for Armenians to transition, like Cyprus or Greece, that still hasn't been discovered by the Armenian market, or vice versa. I don't know. The Greek market hasn't discovered the Armenian one. I don't know how that works, but I think those are few, there are 5, 10 leagues that might be the key for Armenian football to thrive, and Kazakhstan is definitely one of them.
Chadan's interested to hear your thoughts on Aftak Dashan.
Fully agree with you, boys. His role in Pyunik's not just the lineup and just overall in the squad, it made a huge difference. Not just him individually, but his entire performance in every single game, his consistency, his energy, and the thing
They
is,
did a lot of dirty work too.
well, yeah. I'm not saying it's a great thing, but sometimes we actually complain how we don't have one of those players who takes that risky step, who doesn't do that thing that's needed, the small details that are needed. And alongside that, I read and heard of people saying how they were not expecting something like this from Dashan, looking at his age, looking at how many positions he's played himself, especially me. It was quite surprising, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, he's the Armenian Grosskreutz.
Yeah, Armenian, no,
Well said,
it's
yeah.
a mix of Gross
Yeah.
and Benjamin Button.
Yeah.
That's it.
And now the third and final piece of that key core 3 Armenian players that were pretty much at the heart of this Pyunik team is David Yurchenko, who has been progressively regressing, I think is the is the right way to phrase this.
Yeah.
Started out this campaign doing fairly decent. I mean, we had 2 clean sheets. I think both victories were clean sheets, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Donman? 2-0 against Slovan at home, and then it was 2-0 against Zalgiris at home, right?
Yeah, and also the penalty kick shootout against Cluj. Actually, another clean sheet against Cluj. I think that one was at home. Yeah, clean sheet against Cluj at home, and the penalty kicks away. No, he started out great.
He started out great, and then it just kind of got progressively worse. And I think the epitome of what we're trying to say here is that second goal against Slovan away, the one that kind of essentially sealed the capitulation of this Pyunik side. And I'm just, people were saying, oh, his boot ripped, they had to tape it up and whatnot, but I think or something like a poor back pass, but I think
that too, but that can't be an excuse. I mean, we discussed this time and again how Yurchenko's foot game is bad, and this was not the first time we've seen this. This was just the first time it's getting noticed.
Yeah, and I think, going back to that back pass, I just want to make a note real quick. If you go back and watch the replay of that pass, he had plenty of time. I don't think that was a bad back pass. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it was. He had plenty of time and plenty of space. He just fucked up. I don't know what he did, took his eye off the ball, and it just led to a second goal in a matter of 60 seconds. And even the first goal, I think he could have done much better. He dove the completely wrong way. I mean, it's like...
against Basel, the same.
Yes, against Basel, the same. And I think it's very difficult to talk about this because it's like, where do we go from here? Because it's not like we have that much quality. And his backup is Bushnev, and it's like... And I heard the commentators, because I was watching the Armenian stream of the Basel game, and the commentators were saying, well, Yurchenko conceded 5 against Red Star, and Bushnev came in and only conceded 2. And I was like, okay, that may be true, but also they already scored 5 in the first game. They don't need to fucking score any more goals in the second game. It's
there's the difference between away game and home game. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of agendas, bro. Sometimes people push agenda without looking at a player's actual quality. Look at at Pyunik's two left backs. Before going back to Yurchenko, I'm gonna steal the floor for a
Sure,
minute.
yeah.
Uh, they have two left backs, right? Juninho from Brazil, nice goal against Zalgiris, whatever. And his substitute is Kovalenko, the Russian. Both suck with a capital S. Like they're both awful. Juninho is even a little more talented with the ball, but his football IQ and positioning and marking and tackling, it's all off. And let alone his replacement is even worse. Like they brought that other guy in from Russian third or fourth tier. I don't even know, like same as Buchnev, and they found some weird Armenian ancestry in Buchnev, like 164th of a grandmother. And for the guy that played semi-amateur football in Russia, why? Like, why do they bring players like Spirovsky from like one of the best central midfielders in Macedonian football history? They brought Alexander Gonzalez from La Liga, and then simultaneously in the same team they got these semi-amateur players. Like those are the things that bother me about Armenian football, man. But going back to Yuchenko, I love him, but I think it's done. As much as it pains me to say, especially considering his replacement at both club and national team level. By the way, it's Buchnev. That's the replacement. That's awful. But I'm
A new coach coming in could pick totally different keepers, and
I
I
don't
think that's what we're hoping.
I don't know. Yeah, we've been hoping for that for a long time, and under different coaches, and that's the problem with Armenian football. Sometimes the problem is not the coach, but the system that I don't know who runs what, but like for instance, we had Matevosyan last season. He was doing great at Noah. Grigor, I Armenianized it. Uh, and he was doing great. He was in sick form, and he was completely ignored by the national team. We had Felix Verayan for like a month or two abroad at a good team, a good league. Like okay, not a good team, but they're a traditional team, Poyevko. And when he was playing, they should have capitalized on the momentum and fly him in and flew. They should have flown or whatever the verb is, and that's what bothers me as well. Sometimes we got good goalkeepers that, if they're in form, uh, they are not called, and then they lose form and like disappear forever. And Armenia misses out on good goalkeepers that might have helped somehow.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple of if we're normally we look domestically for goalkeepers, and I believe at this point, I think one player whose name I've seen come up um, consistently is this guy Vyashelov Grigoryan, who is the goalkeeper for
Yes,
Lednine
yeah.
Artsakh. Yeah, and you know I haven't personally watched him play, so I can't really comment. But from people that I read who regularly watch the APL as well, have had a lot of high praises for him. So he's only 23 years of age. I mean, it's yet
He's
to be
from
seen. But what are you
he's
saying, Norman?
he's from Timki.
Ah,
He's like from the Russian team, and he was brought in to the APL from Russia. He is starting to look like another Matevosyan case. A good Armenian talent from Russia, goalkeeper, young, relatively young, uh, brought in to Armenia and starts to pick up form. I hope he
also,
doesn't follow on that case and he actually gets called up.
Also, funnily enough, he was also Russia's under 20 goalkeeper. In 2018, he made 5 appearances, and then he was also in the PFL team where he made 3 appearances. So he was clearly valued, I would say, when he was younger in Russia a few years ago. So interesting to see where that goes. But back to Pyunik. We have a couple notes here about just how things progressed throughout this campaign, and I think one weird instance that I didn't even realize, I think it was until match day 5, was the fact that there's no VAR in the Conference League, and that led to referees making horrible decisions against Armenian clubs and against Armenians as usual, which is something we complain about a lot, and VAR has fixed. But when there is no VAR and you're inconsistent in competition, things could have gone a lot different. I think we counted a total of like 3 missed penalty calls throughout this group stage, and that were like very, very clear and obvious. And one of them, the referee, he called play on a foul on the top of the box. And then the Pyunik player went into the box and got fouled again. And then instead of giving the penalty, he pulled it back for the free kick. Which is like, that's the stupidest thing I'd ever seen in my life. That's not like, I'm fairly certain the rules state that the penalty is like trumps pulling it back for a free kick. So that was like an appalling decision. Should. And I believe that would have been a tying goal against Slovan, if I'm not mistaken. So that's another great instance right there. And I think the referee decision is definitely one. Chadens, what's something in this campaign, kind of like a theme that you noticed?
I thought about this as an overall performance. Firstly, I don't exactly remember what I said about how the Pyunik's chances are gonna be. I don't remember when we started. I think we said it after the group was confirmed. But I didn't check what I said. I remember though that I didn't have high expectations for our Armenian club. However, turns out they actually did better than we expected. The thing is, overall, Pyunik did well. Like we wouldn't be able to see to see something big like this, an Armenian team playing in Europe, like in a group stage, because usually we would know of Champions League and Europa League. Conference League gave us this chance, and
I agree.
Alongside that, Pyunik individually, like individual players and small decision making, was the problem. But as an overall to Armenian football, it was a good result. It was a good result that they ended up playing in Europe in group stages, like in the same sentence, putting all these words. It's big.
I agree. And Armen, I'll let you go on your rant that I know you're dying to go on. Before we get into the positive, which there was definitely positive aspects of this group stage campaign. There was a lot of positive aspects.
Actually, I think that my rant is over though.
Well, I was going to say about player quality. I know you didn't you want to talk about player quality in
when I reference the left backs, that can extend to some other players like, I don't know, Football, that for some reason starts when you have a good midfielders, central midfielders on bench like Karasyuk from the Ukrainian Premier League, or previously before him Najarian, that had a fallout with the club and left for Van. But Pyunik does have that. Mixes is a picture of Armenian football in general, but more to the extremes. They have players like, as I said, Alexander Gonzalez, Spirovsky, Ristevsky, Karasyuk, and some Armenians players like Karabetyan, I don't know, Aras, Yurchenko, that players that have solid expertise and resumes, and they mix them with semi-amateur players. That's the main issue, I think, not just for Pyunik, but for Armenian football in general. But I think that's the worst part. Other than that, it was a huge season, bro. Let's start with the positives. Let's turn that frown upside down a little bit.
Yes, let us. So we'll each, I think, take turn saying a positive thing, just so I think the audience can get the full breadth of things that really went well. Pyunik actually managed, if we're talking about head to head, to win the head to head with both Slovan and Zalgiris. Not just on goal difference, but also in terms of performance. If we're looking at the games on their face value, Pyunik defeated each team once and lost to each team once. But also, if we're talking about goal difference, you had 2-0 in the first game, and then you had 2-1, I believe, was the scoreline for both games in the away leg. So on that aggregate, Pyunik won 3-2 on both occasions, which was insane to think about. And they played really, really well, not only at home, but I think, like we pointed out previously, lapses of concentration and individual quality is kind of what led to this downfall. But once they were able to like snap out of it and wake up, they were playing so good. And I would say especially in that second half against Basel, that was some of the best attacking football I've ever seen an Armenian team play, and they only managed to score one goal, which was a shame. Yeah, that's a huge point right there. That Pyunik were actually even better than Slovan, who topped the group. They got the better of them, which I think speaks volumes. Chadens, what's another positive?
Another positive was that Pyunik scored in every single game. This is brilliant in my perspective, because I was not expecting something like this. I was assuming some games to concede a lot, with Basel especially, but they did pretty well, and they could have scored more. Obviously, I mean the issues with the referee, they could have turned the game around. However, scoring a goal in every single game is something big. Our Armenian national team hasn't. There were some games that they were supposed to score and they didn't. So that speaks volumes.
I think we had like a streak of like 3 games or 4 games or something that we hadn't scored a goal with the national team too. So like
That's
you said,
scary.
yeah, this is really, really good. That's a really big positive. Ottoman, what's another positive takeaway from this?
Well, this was like a positive that it's more mental, and I like to highlight this. I started to notice this halfway through the European season, and as the games flew by and the games went on, it was crazy to see time and again Pyunik ending the game in attack, finishing strong. Whether it's winning or losing, Pyunik were always uh, attacking, pressing the opposition, and due to the nature of each game, Pyunik had always something to fight for, and that was crazy to see Zalgiris and even Slovan, but the craziest bit, Basel, a continental big trademark like Basel, actually scared and parking the bus both games against Unique. That's beautiful to see, first, and secondly, it's an indicator of mentality of a team that's mentally strong. That, yeah, as you said, has lapses in concentration, and I would say the first half against Basel and the one of the halves against Zalgiris in Lithuania. Those were the only two halves of a game that Munich didn't play well throughout all competition, and it's crazy. I mean, this is super important for Armenian teams to stay competitive, whether it's club or national team, to stay competitive in every single game and finish the game strong. Whether you're winning and want to increase the goal difference margin, or whether you're losing and you want to get a result out of the game. It's amazing. Melikian has done a wonderful job on that, and of course on many other fronts as well, tactically, etc. But I think the mentality of this team is one of the biggest changes Melikian has brought with him from Ukraine, and throughout all of his pressers, his press conferences, he hinted that he does intend to stay at the club. And at least myself, I don't know about you guys, but at least from my point of view, he should by all means stay in the club because he's done a great job so far, and you don't want to touch something that is not broken and that might bring even more success on the long run. I give it 2 more seasons, and I say he can either take the team to Champions League group stages or I don't know, UEFA Europa League or UEFA Conference League knockout stages all the way through. Give him like 1 or 2 more season stops, and we're gonna see a hell of a lot more improvements.
Yeah, two things I want to note from there. The first one is that fight that you indicated, that how they ended and closed off every game, and I think that's like my chief complaint with the Armenian national team was that in those final 10, 15 minutes, it looks like they never even try. But this Pyunik team was trying very hard. Harutyunyan, Dashian, everyone, Aras Ozglis, everyone that came on, it was like incredible to see, the motivation that these players had because, like you said, they were fighting for something. And two, about Melikian, and I really, really hope he stays. And I say this because longevity in terms of coaching in the Armenian league or with Armenian clubs in general isn't a thing, which is a shame. And I think that it would be really good to see Pyunik break this cycle. It would really be good to see Pyunik qualify again for the Conference League or maybe for the Europa League or maybe for Champions League. Just, get back into the group stages and build on this success because, I thought, and I think like many other people, we thought the first dynasty club would be Adana Armenia because how they came out guns blazing, they played so well, they got to the Europa League playoffs twice. They were headed by Vardanyan, who is just historically just such a great Armenian manager. But this Pyunik team really, well, now they have Vardan Mijakhchan. I'm saying back then.
Vatan Minasyan.
Yeah, Vardan Minasyan. Yeah, Vardan Minasyan. I combined it.
Pyunik. No, I got you. Telepathy. Look, Pyunik already broke one of the curses, which was winning and making it through the entire competition with chances of making knockout stages. Gradual progress, and it's being made.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would love to see 2 Armenian teams in the group stages next season of Conference League. I think to me that would
Why
be
not?
incredible. I mean, I think if Urartu can keep it up, and it would be great, or if Adana Armenia can do it alongside Pyunik. But I think again, it's very crucial. Whoever wins the Armenian Premier League, it's crucial that they make it to the Conference League group stages, whether that is Pyunik again or not. I suspect that they will probably be up there by the end of the season, but we'll see. But again, I think just bringing everything back full circle, they exceeded all of our expectations for sure, and I think we're very, very glad we got to see an Armenian team really actually represent in the group stages, and hopefully next year they take it a step further.
And congratulations, Pyunik, for real.
Congratulations. And moving on, and speaking of congratulations, we want to give a quick congratulations shout out to Norberto Briasco Balakian, the Armenian national team striker, for winning the Argentinian League with Boca Juniors. He wrapped that up after having personally a very difficult season, and just want to note something that he said in his post-match interview about when.
No, I didn't.
Well, no,
No.
but you want to explain it? I think you would be able to explain it better.
Yeah, he was asked like, why? I mean, he was asked about Armenia and the national team and why he snubbed the national team, and he had already explained that back in the day that he wanted to prioritize his transition into Boca, and then yeah, it's not like he said he has Armenia as a second priority. Uh, but in a way, we do know that's the case. But still, he's not as dumb as to make it explicit. The real question is, now that he's back in good form and especially more importantly fitness, will he join the national team? That's the big question. And now we got to jump into the national team because there's a lot to talk about, especially looking at South America for a change. We got three good national team prospects playing in big Latin American teams, and the friendly window incoming this month, like in less than 2 weeks.
Yes. So final topic of today's episode is the Armenian national team, as Armen just mentioned. As of today, which is November 6th, 2022, Armenia still does not have a manager, and we are less than 2 weeks away from our friendly match against Kosovo. I think we're about 10 days away at this juncture. Still don't have a coach. There are options out there. I think I'm starting to get a little concerned because I think it would be, in my opinion, a waste of friendlies if we don't have a manager to try to implement a new system or to try out new players.
Mm-hmm.
We've speculated on who we think it could be, and I think, as I previously stated, I wouldn't want it to be Melikian. Not that I don't think he would do a good job with Armenia. I actually think he would, because I think the motivational factor is something he's really, really good at, and I think he would give them that drive and motivation. But I think he's doing so well with Pyunik. I would want to see that continue. But
Exactly.
we've pointed this out previously that there is the Spanish connection, and we do know that some managers were contacted. But there's also Michel Derzakarian. There's also Robert Arzumanian, who's currently with FC Noah, former Armenian National Team central defender. He is definitely an option. But I don't know, opening up to you guys. I mean, what are you guys thinking? We're 10 days out, no manager. Not looking that great.
True. I don't know. Whoever comes, I just wish uh, new players. I wish to see more young blood. That's my main interest here.
Well, speaking of players, there are a couple players we know will not be joining, no matter what. Hovhannes Sambarzumian is currently injured. Chadens, what is his injury? I didn't really read anything about it, but I just saw
I'm not sure as well. Actually, I checked several times. I checked the place that I read from just says he's injured. He's just gonna be out for a while. That's all it says. I didn't spot anywhere where it said what's the exact problem. So he's gonna be out. I don't know until when. So.
Along with him, we have Edgar Babayan, who is going to be sidelined for a while too, right? Armen, what was his injury?
Yeah, I don't remember the injury either. I think it was something with the leg, the knee, something like that. I don't know. I don't think it was an ACL, but I know it was a big injury at least until February or something. Good thing the winter is coming up, so he won't like these players are not gonna miss a lot of games. But going back to Hovan Batumian for a minute, he's old. I think it's about time we start thinking about long-term replacements because it's not getting any younger.
Agreed.
Yeah, if we start getting on that topic, episode 50 is going to be also called 500-minute episode. So
I think that would be the case, by the way, with old players that get injured, like when Horik Vitamin got injured time and again, or Çalışır, etc. We start Armenian national team should, like, if they were some half sensible people, they should start calling up replacements for the long term and use the injuries as a wake up call.
Yeah, and speaking of Horik Baraman, he's also doubtful because he's missed the past 5 matches so far for Rostov with another unknown injury. So he's probably not going to be there. And then Tigran Barsegan, of course, obviously with the broken leg diagnosis, he's also going to be out. So it's not looking too great right now in terms of those. But this also gives opportunity to see other players, to see young blood injected into this team, especially in positions like right back and the wings and central midfield, where we think changes are definitely needed. So, boys, we're going to open up the floor to you guys, whoever wants to start first. What players would you want to see called up into this national team camp for the November friendlies? This could be new players that have never represented Armenia, or it could be players that have played maybe 1 or 2 caps before. But who would you want to see called up? We'll start with one player. So, Chadens, we'll start with you. Who do you want to see called up?
For sure, I want to see any of the youngsters that Kaparos has brought on. And anyone I would be fine with. Specifically, I want to see Shagoyan play 90 minutes. I want to see Shagoyan play 90 minutes for the first team, for the first squad. I want to see him be the main player. And a second name that I would really want for the same thing to happen is Stiopa. Both of them, I want to see them play full 90 minutes. Them together, even not together, I don't mind. Both of them are important names to me.
Armen, a few players that you would want to see.
I changed the criteria.
I have so many. I know who you're gonna mention, so I'm not gonna say that.
No, say. You probably
No.
you probably have a lot more to say about him than I do. So I think you should carry the South American contingency. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a lot to say, just because he's from the same area that I am, doesn't mean that I know him better. Yeah,
you know him
he's
personally,
a great player. No, hopefully, bro. It's not Balekian. I do know Balekian, but and he would bring a lot to the national team, but I don't know if it's going to join. But Nicolas Rossi Marashlian, he's definitely ready. He's starting nonstop and scoring and assisting now as of late for Peñarol. That's a South American giant. He's got everything. He's had the tactical awareness, the technical skills, and the physical preparation and build. He is as professional can get, and that's not something that Armenian football has a lot. Like can afford to have many of those kinds of players, and he is one of those. Same case, by the way, before moving on to other players, Nicolas is a winger, so I think it would be a good replacement for Tico and Babayan. But the same case as Nico happens with Najarian, that is currently playing in FC Van, that left Pyunik in a hustle, and then a lot of extra football things happened there, as usual in Armenian football with diaspora players. But Najarian is the same as Nico Rossi, but more defensive. He's a central mid, defensive mid, and fullback. He is very versatile. I would say he's one of the best players in the APL that is making his rounds at Van because of how he left Pyunik. But he is finally getting form, and I'm sure that's one of the reasons why he left Pyunik. Another one of the names I would like to see at the national team, of course, Vasily Bohosyan from Greek Ionikos, 24 years old, defensive beast, like a hound, like Karen Muradian type of player, and we need those type of players. With the difference that he's 5 years younger or 6 than Muradian, and already on his second in a row season playing not technically not playing, but a staple at a UEFA top 20 league, and that's not something many Armenians can say, let alone defensive mids. So I got 3 off the top of my head.
Great. Nice. Good three. And I'm gonna piggyback off your last pick. I want to see Pavel Gorilov play in this window.
I got some. I got
Um,
some to say. But go
yeah,
ahead.
I think
You know.
he's played so far 13 matches in the Armenian Premier League for FC Van, and at
Scored
the
a wonderful
defensive
goal.
Not Julian, yeah.
scored an insane goal. Actually, Najarian's been playing left back also for Van, but we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like I've said, defensive midfield is the area that I think we are the weakest at by far. We have zero depth in that department, and we do have depth. They just haven't been called up. Najarian and Gorilov. Gorilov also already plays for the Armenian youth. I think he is playing first team football because he's loaned from Rostov to the Armenian Premier League, so he is, playing regularly. I think calling him up and giving him 90 minutes or two 45-minute halves in each game, I think will be really, really good, and I think we will like what we see with him.
Yeah, can I one thing, can I?
Yeah, add it, yeah.
I love this guy, and I love Pavel. Like, not just because of how high I said and how good he is, patriotic, good, talent, young. The thing is that, as you said, he's only on loan from Rostov, and he is still eligible for Russia. We know he would choose Armenia if it was up to him, and that's the thing. And that's the thing. I don't think it's up to him because
Again, I'll say
Russia,
this again. He
Russia is
already
Russia.
plays for Armenia. He already plays for the under
Yeah,
19s.
but it's
Rostov
like a
Rostov
concession.
releases him to go play for Armenia. So I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
an
But
issue.
for Armenian youth national teams, that means he's still eligible for Russian national team, and that's
Yeah,
the
but he also
problem.
plays in the Armenian Premier League. That means he's kind of
Yeah,
already bonding. He's got the environment
yeah, yeah, yeah.
to convince
But
him come to the Armenian national team. It's
yeah, but
I
it's not a
understand that they're
permanent transfer. It's not up to him. It's up to the club, and the club has to run things through the Russian FA, and that's what scares me. It's not that I think he would choose Russia. No, I think he would rather actually not play international football if he was coerced into
well, he
playing
knows.
for Russia or nothing. Huh?
He's sure he knows. I'm sure he knows.
And that's the thing. I don't think he should make his senior international debut this semester. For the same reason I mentioned to you guys in private, I think that he should only play or make his senior international debut on a semester, like for instance last semester or this semester, he should have made his international debut, but Cap somehow didn't call him up, or I don't know for what reason. And that's the thing. We never fully know what happens behind curtains. But if he plays only one or two games before any market transfer window, uh, and he plays good,
Okay.
I know, bro. I know Russia, the Russian Federation or the FA is gonna
Okay,
have
look.
like they're
It,
gonna crap the fans. They're gonna like, we need this kid, fly him back home, and he's gonna fly back home to Russia,
okay,
or
look.
and they're gonna freeze him, and that's my worry. He should,
He,
like, the FA, the Armenian.
Appelesiara.
okay,
Oh yeah,
here's my
the
thing.
FFA should wait until next semester for him.
Here's my thing.
I mean,
Okay.
they already let the train go once.
Okay. Now let me tell you why everything you're saying doesn't make sense.
Appelesiara.
Okay. First of all, he will never ever be thrown into a starting lineup in a competitive match having not previously played. And
This is not about starting or not.
listen,
It's about a
I think
cap.
I know it's about getting the caps. I understand that, but I'm saying we need him to actually be playing for us. And if we cannot, what are we going to do? Wait 3 or 4 years to see him
No,
play? Because
they shouldn't have waited. That's the point. They should
I know
have
they
told
shouldn't
him
have waited, and there's
for the
no
4 game
opportunity.
window.
There's no opportunity in the Euro qualifiers to do what you're saying because we don't play more
Okay.
than 2 matches in a single window. So by that logic, we're not going to see him. We shouldn't see him play for Armenia for another 2 years, at least. But
Well, the
that
FFA screwed up.
seems unrealistic to me. I think even if they cap him once in whatever, I think that should be plenty. It should be more than enough to tie him. But also, again, I think he needs to be playing. I think he needs to be, in my opinion, a player that probably starts every other game for the national team, because we don't have a defensive midfielder, and I think someone has to step up and say, like, no, we need this kid. We need a defensive midfielder. He's going to be it for us, because he's clearly already talented enough to do it. But we'll see.
Hopefully a full transfer, bro. Hopefully a full transfer does it.
Yeah, if he
Hopefully,
does fully transfer to the APL, absolutely done and dusted. He'll play for the national team.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have a similar complaint for my second player, Tikhnesian. I think I
he's
don't
only
think
21.
yeah, but I don't think he'll get called up in this window, although I would like to see it because we have garbage left backs and he's a very good left back. I watched his I think it was the
Because of his age, bro. Because of his age, 1 cup is enough. 1 minute. That would be enough.
So I think as much as I want to see him in this window, I think waiting and I think having him join in either March for that game against Turkey or in June when we play Wales and Latvia, I think he's needed. We don't have a quality left back, and this guy could be our left back for the next decade. And he's more than good enough. I watched him play plenty of times. I watched him play the under-21 European Championship with Russia, and he was murdering. He was doing so good. So for me, that's another player that I think is very key. And a third player, one that I think is kind of obvious, and for me, a player that should be there, Kartasyan. I know we talk about him a lot, obviously, and I think if we combine him with Stiopa Mukherjee, and we also have Haroyan, and we have Andre Chalashir, who is, of course, aging at this point. I don't know how many more campaigns he realistically has for Armenia, considering how injury-prone he is also.
I think I think it's 31. I would say 2 or 3 more.
So I think having Kartasyan be that fourth center back in the depth chart, have a healthy rotation between the four, because I think any combination of those four together would be really, really good. And I think there are combinations that together would work better than others. And, I think so.
But we need more.
We need exactly.
We need more younger ones because they need to prepare. Because this Euros, if it's not important for the FFA, it's really important to me. Because it's that break. It's that what's the word? Breakthrough. What is it?
It's the biggest opportunity for the breakthrough because more European teams qualify for the Euros. Obviously, it's a European-only tournament, so there's the opportunity is there to finally break that we have never qualified for a major tournament, curse.
Yeah.
The opportunity is there, and I think if you do not have 4 solid central defenders, you will not qualify. Period. So, and I think we've seen that when you have. Some of the morons that we've had come off the bench, you just think like, Jesus Christ, of course we're not qualifying for anything.
I mean, one of them I even saw live, and I was very surprised how he plays for the Armenian national team still plays.
But yeah, so and like we said, I think we'll see what happens. Hopefully we have a lot more clarity by the time this episode comes out. But this episode will be out on Wednesday or Tuesday rather, which will be it'll be like 8 days until the game comes out. So hopefully we know who the manager is. I don't know. But I think
only Galoyan is called, right? Called up only.
Yeah, I think Armen, you had read that, right? That Galoyan is getting, and Vahan.
Galoyan,
Vahan as well.
Yeah.
It's also concerning to me that players are getting called up without a manager.
Yeah, this is problematic. This is really problematic.
We still don't know anything, to be honest. I'm sure we'll know by the time.
How do you set up the tactics? Like, if the manager comes, how does he set up? Doesn't he ask, "Who did you bring me?"
I'm sure there's going to be an interim manager if no one's appointed officially. We'll see.
That would be even more concerning to me if no one.
Yeah, it would be.
No, it's probably going to be Edgar Manucharian that works for the FFA. Somebody like him, with that kind of profile, and an interim manager.
Yeah, but again, this is the time that we need to see new players. We need to see, and we need the
generation.
Just the thing that makes it worse for me is that we're playing Turkey in the opening game, and I don't want to see a new manager's first game be arguably
Yeah.
what Armenians are going to see as the biggest game. That's the
I
one
mean,
that's circled on the calendar.
yeah,
That's the game that Armenians
the
care.
biggest name.
We could lose every other fucking game, literally, but as long as we win that game. And
Yeah,
I think,
at
and I think
home.
every Armenian has that mentality. So I would
Yeah.
hate that to be the new manager's first game and not be able to implement their tactics prior to that, or at least have an understanding of what the player pool looks like and of what this player pool can accomplish, the system that the manager's trying to implement. And
Yeah.
I would be very scared if we were going into that Turkey game.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for a manager to not be decided and then pick all the players. It would, like this international friendly is there for a reason, to test out players. But who's gonna use the players? Who's gonna test them out? It's the manager. So maybe they have chosen someone and he's talking to them. I don't know, but
Yeah,
the way it looks like it is weird.
Yeah, I speculated that because they didn't want to. I speculated that the FFA didn't want to announce a manager because they didn't want to take the attention off Pyunik, and I think that may have been the case. So I think Monday we will know. But anyway, in sum, thank you for listening to Football Kentron's 50th episode, our 2-year anniversary episode.
Yep.
We've highlighted some of these issues with the national team, but we're gonna go a lot more in depth into it before the friendlies. I think we should have an episode out before then. So
or maybe after the friendlies, after we see everything.
Yeah, or if the new manager comes out, the squad list comes out, and it's interesting, we might hop on and do one. But anyway,
we can analyze it.
Thank you for listening, everyone. 2 years in, we really, really appreciate it. Please like, share, all that jazz. Is there anything left to say, guys?
Happy birthday.
Well, that's going to be it. Thank you for listening, everyone. Follow us on Twitter if you don't already, because we tweet a lot of good stuff. Follow us on Instagram because Chadens works really hard on it. And that's it. We'll see what happens. Thank you for listening, everyone. Goodbye.